Exodus part 3, um, and I'm going to continue at verse, whoops, let's get this involved here. Well, I didn't hit the button right. Um, Chapter 9, right off the bat, we're starting at verse 1 because that was the end at 832. And for those that are just tuning in and saying, well, where are these formats? I'm looking for the formats right now. And as you see them here, you'll see me dividing these verses up. But let me show you really quick here um, that what's going to end up happening. And these are still, I'm still saving the location to where these verses were put together. But as you can see that there is a hidden format here that I'm revealing, and it's the first writer's words. Now, it's not always obvious when you see them like this, because they're editing a lot of their text is for their God. Um, um, Everyone should probably go down into the description and look for the 1611 preface and read that. I've got it highlighted to show you that atheists are actually editing the text. They're going to jump up and down and say, well, that can't be true. Well, actually, Satan has deceived everyone. So the thing here is by proving these formats exist, and anyone out there don't think that's true, go grab Daniel, remove all the punctuation, get rid of all the capital letters, and then go through and find the shortest verses you can find. And if you do this with any dedication at all, you will find Daniel's hidden formats. All of Daniel go into a format, okay? One specific format, these 3 verse groupings, okay? So it's in the Hebrew text only. So that's what I'm showing you here and what I'm trying to pull out of the stuff that they have added. And when you read the 1611 preface, it might be very disturbing because they call Gregory divine, and who is Gregory? When they're going to, and the secular world is going to, when you look it up, going to say, well, that's the Pope at that time. It don't matter. They're still using the word he was divine, like he's the most holiest at that time. So they also have capitalized the word son, S-U-N, son, as being righteous. The Vatican has an Egyptian obelisk in their courtyard. Ra is the sun god. The moon is his daughter. They're taking it from ancient times, and they've got these symbols that their goddess is the moon goddess, okay? And she's mentioned in the text as well. Revelations talks about her as being the mother of all whores. So, or harlots, excuse me. But the object here is I'm removing their text and I'm trying to explain what I did, and this is for history. Now, that took a little bit longer than I thought, but every once in a while I have to do that in the videos. I'm not going to do that in all of them, as you've noticed, but I'm just making sure that those that come into this video will know my purpose here. I'm using the word kingdom to fill the verse, and the blue text, I should say, is being taken out. The green text, highlighted text, is what I'm putting in or changing when I change the word from here to here. I feel this type of change is not needed. People are very wise today. They can see and understand, so I'm not going to go over every word. Now, I did do that, every word of every verse in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And that because there is no format there, so I had to explain the true truths of that to get the story of Jesus. And when you compile them together, we actually have the last 8 days of Jesus in Jerusalem and the correct order of the disciples. So here I'm adding the word kingdom because that's the intent of the story. And this pestilence to disease, even though I have a Bible program that when I click on the word pestilence, over here, the New American Standard Concordance is these words here are the Hebrew words, and for them to own the copyrights to be able to print this, they had to change the lettering of the words. So the words are not spelled exactly as Strong's dictionary, but the object is they needed to have this, or they wanted to have this one special with their text. You can search on the internet, but you will not find this program to be able to go through it and see these numbers, how many times they've done that. Since I informed them a long time ago when I did this, everything has changed. What I'm doing here is being able to use word for word in the text and um, find the answer. And I can even show this text because it's in a different style. The word style means as long as it's different than what was actually written. So when you look at how many Bibles there are today, they broke it down into sentences, they broke them into paragraphs, so nobody can come along and grab their text and start off with their text. That's exactly what they did a long time ago. They overtook the Israelis' text, the true uh, men that knew our Creator truly existed. They lived this, they witnessed this. This is the difference. And they've over 2,000, maybe 2,300 years, they've been in control of this text. It went from other Israelis becoming non-believers, which we know them today as Jews. So now then they were thrown out, and Rome's men with their practice on the female goddess, which means you have to remain single. Also shows that our creators told the priests to be married, and their descendants after them will be priests as well. That doesn't happen anymore since they took over the game, or took over the story from those that were Jews at the time. And that's why when Jesus was lived on earth, that's why they didn't believe him, okay, because they had this uh, practice of meditating to have a sex with a so-called female goddess. I hope I got it. It's a lot longer than I thought I was going to do for this intro, but it needs to be done every once in a while. Make a distinction to the word separate. Pretty much that explains that. Nothing to none. I'm having to add the word definite time to say weeks. Now, in the previous video, I was trying to say that there's this timeline that we can go to and say, how long did this timeline actually exist? When we know the frogs were one of the first ones, that we know that that was in the springtime that happens. Spring is different than the rest of the world when it's along the equator. As you know, those along the equator don't have snow. Example, in Florida, we get a hard frost. So that's about all I get down here this far in Florida. And you look across the globe, you can see that, or yeah, this belt that goes around. Frogs, I'm not sure when they happen, okay, over there. But remember, the plagues were something that were not convinced by a lot of people. They just thought it was something that happens the way it happens. And I don't like saying the word natural because that doesn't exist. Our creator exists, made everything exist. But to them, the way they taught this female practice was nature exists, and then gods came from that nature. So you'll never see me using the word nature to describe what's going on. But they were thinking it was a natural act that these things would come about. So they weren't really believing our creator was a creator who creates everything. Okay, let's see. Okay, now I'll get back into the story. So here I'm using the word weeks. time. And I'm hoping I got this here right. I'm not sure if it goes on the end or not, but put that in the comments so I can correct them. I didn't, I failed English spelling. I couldn't do that through school. I still have a hard time spelling every word. So if I mispronounce a word here and there, that's why I read it and I just say what's it might be completely wrong. So don't think I'm perfect here, okay? I do make errors. But this week's time is just to start putting a timeline in that they're different times. But we know one of the earliest ones were frogs, so we have that going on. And then the text is going to come up and we're going to get a real good understanding of uh, when the plagues become final here. He will do this, and many will die. I'm using the word many because the word all is said here, and all is not true. Remember, the king still had horses for his chariots. Okay, so this is just a false statement. Okay, um, and not one died. I can put none here. Okay. Um, Now, soot to ashes. Soot is what comes up this, I want to say the vent stack from an oven. They would have a clay oven, they'd have a vent stack, and in the oven is where they would put the water or wood and then light it. And just above it would be the oven where they put stuff in and roast it. It's pretty much an open. If you take your oven and open it up, the heat comes out the door, but in their day, to prevent that, it went up a vent, and that soot is the blackness around there. So he couldn't really grab a handful. And here it's two handfuls. I'm making it one handful, but it's ashes from the oven. Okay. Um, this word here, let me take a look to see about that word. And handful of soot. Let me get that word. Okay, this is the word I'm looking for. And as you see, I can click on it and it comes over here. See, they call it a furnace, otherwise than that, and twice here. But we know that the word oven is used in other texts, so we know that there is a word oven. So um, to stay with the truth here, I'm using the word oven because as you can tell, it's not a furnace that you would just burn to burn. Uh, they didn't have things in warm weather. They really didn't need to have um, furnaces. Okay. Now, anyways, I was going to talk about Babylon, but the thing here is through here to here, begin, became, began. That's pretty much it. Um, Wait a second. Okay, here, because the sores broke out in Egypt. Okay, they're going to change that. That's what they did. They changed it from sores to boils here. Okay. Now, they can't become boils. Boils are different than sores. And then where is the text here? They could not stand before Moses. Sores would have been something. Boils don't happen on your feet. So, in other words, we have text to prove that they've added a word that just is not truthful. It doesn't make reasonable sense. So, they're sores. They use the word sores here, so I'm keeping to the word sores. Um, But yeah, our Creator hardened his heart. Well, he angered the king again, and did not listen to YV. Um, and then I needed these three or these two words hooked up to make a 3-verse format. As you've seen earlier, I showed you the format. Um, and then here I'm adding the word week's time. It says, well, I added this. So it would have said, behold, about uh, say this. Yeah, it's just so hard to see when you read it. That's why there is so many problems in the text, is because they're trying to specifically say messages within verses. So here, behold, about this time tomorrow, okay, I will send heavy rain. Now, a lot of times, behold, and like this word here, that doesn't, even Strong's didn't feel that it was a strong enough word to keep, as well as the word this. So when I'm getting rid of some words, a lot of times it will be words that aren't in Strong's Concordance. He didn't feel they're important. And when you see them can be taken out in the format, then you'll see that that's, um, let's see, I did tell you about Daniel. If you wanted to go to Daniel, that's perfect text to practice on. If you're not willing to do Daniel, take any of the first 9 Psalms. They're very easy to do, and there are different formats that you can find. Just make sure you're finding the shortest verses you can, and then group those verses together as a paragraph. Now, this is a hailstorm because a hailstorm includes a lot of rain and thundering and lightning. So, and it says here, such, which it, or let's see, such has not been, they had to add the word seen. How come this word here isn't in, this word should be this color, and it should be italic. And okay, let me show you what I'm doing here. See how when the word seen here, how that's is being added. That's what they did to the text. They're showing you that they're adding words into the text. And what I was doing is I thought I had captured all of them in this color to show that they were added at this time. And I think this is the 1977 New American Standard that they did this in. So every time you see an italic word in your Bible, they're adding again. And what I did is I did a quick search on italic words. I think there was over 8,000 words that they added here in this year. So I just tried to show that this way. So yeah, that's what, I don't know why I didn't capture that. But then again, it is an 8-bit program that I'm using here. So, but the object is the word seen. It should have been like this. So you know that they added the text and I'm not adding this word, but I needed to use this. But when it says it had not been seen in Egypt, that means that they would have never had seen a hailstorm. They had to know what a hailstorm is. Okay. It's just that it was the larger size hail that they'd never seen before that would be able to kill their livestock. And mentioning that, here I needed to have our creator needs to have to tell them to bring the livestock into their home. Because if you read this verse, you'll see that in the field to safety. A field does not have any covering. If he would have said into the forest where, yes, some of the trees or something, but you got to understand the layout of Egypt is they're by the Nile River and there's a lot of marshland. And then they were in their own little community as slaves. So they didn't have a field, but they would have had homes for shelter. So to be as truthful as possible for the text to happen correctly, there is what it is. And then many of his stock, of his people's livestock, had not brought into a home will die. See, our creator's using the word home here. So I guess this is where I should have highlighted this word here as yellow. But no, that would have meant I used it. But I guess I'm glad I found that. But that's why I'm using the word homes here. Okay. Um, Maybe I wasn't that smart when I did this. I must have read down farther and used that to fill that in. Because a lot of times when I'm doing this, I have to go back and forth and read it. These are not easy to find. That's why I'm suggesting Daniel. That would be an exercise for those that really truthfully want to witness for themselves the truth of finding the first writer's formats. Okay, and the other text I was worried about, when was I going to add the word walking stick instead of just his staff? Because a staff, I'm going to use that as um, a flag on it. So I have to separate the words so they don't have double, triple meaning. Like the ark is not an ark, it's a boat. See, when I said ark, you didn't know whether it was the chest or it was the boat. So that's why I'm stopping the confusion, trying to keep the words meaning exactly what they're supposed to mean. And yes, I know there's about 8 words. I think I said 6 before, but there's about 8 words that I still can't get that separation from the word, such as the word left. Is it the left arm? Is it the left leg? Did they go left? Did they go right? That type of thing. So the word right even has that double meaning of, you're a righteous person doesn't mean you're just right-handed all the time. um, okay, 21, and I haven't even got going here. Um, and he refused to send them. Okay, now he's going to send locusts. So now, here's a real good word: sprouting. So when did the locust? When it's sprouting, and they're worried about it. Yeah, I'm going to get to the advisors here real quick. What it is a sprouting in Egypt and in Israel. The first wheat harvest, which would be the sprouting grain that they need to eat. This is the first one. Now, this grain is very important to them, whether it was the first harvest or the second harvest, because I think it only takes 40 days for the second harvest to happen. But we have now a timing of actually saying whether it's April or May when this took place, because down here, I changed the word servant to advisors because you wouldn't have servants coming up to him and saying, how long will Israelis be a problem to us? The servants don't talk to the king. They know their place and status, but they have to be advisors. And it wouldn't be the word this, because this defines exactly what is recently happening, that word. So it's the Israelis will be a problem to us. So as advisors are aware of what's going on, they're standing around when Moses and Aaron came into it. But here, what they're going to do, because they're advising him here what is going to happen, and they're saying that Egypt is not destroyed. They didn't kill all the animals, didn't kill all the trees, didn't all break down in the hailstorm, but is dying. They see this destruction. Should I put Egypt as is being destroyed? I don't like that word. It's dying. Is the way I feel that the text should read. Okay, because it isn't destroyed. Is being destroyed. I could have used that word being here and kept the word, but is dying is better off, because their livestock, all these sores on people, everybody now is aware of what's going on. But they're advising to let only their men leave, okay? And here he's telling Moses that, and your young ones, or your ones, um, who are the ones, oh, they're asking who are the ones going. So when I read the rest of the text, it's about the young ones. They're young. Young means they aren't married yet. Okay, so that's what the word young here means. Um, and Moses is telling them, we're going to take our young. So I just didn't pull that word out of the air to say that. Okay, it it doesn't lay it out here, so I have to make sure that it's there. And I guess for that should be there, and then hopefully you'll find this word here, or just watch the video. And then with our livestock. So um, here I think I'm no, but the conversation, the words from Moses, we now understand what's going on. Here the king is refusing them, not your little ones. Here it's little ones. So now again, the word young is possible to be used. And livestock, I'm using from the livestock up here because Hebrews had oxen. You got to understand that they were bricklayers. You have to have these carts to put the bricks on to send them and gather them, and those carts are going to be very important. And so the word livestock means they had not only maybe they had donkeys, maybe they didn't, maybe they just had oxen because they weren't allowed to travel, so they might not have donkeys. It's just I'm just trying to point out the word livestock here. So they were driven out of the king's palace. Okay, the thing here is out of his presence. That's true, but they wouldn't have just sent them away out of the room. They were probably escorted out now. So I wanted to make sure that they were completely out of the palace. And for then the locust came. I'm adding the word came, so that needs to be here, like that. Um, and then the king hurried to summon Moses. Like I said, the word summon, a king summons people. He doesn't ask them, or he doesn't say, go get them. um, and then is please make a supplication. I don't know if I went over the word supplication before, but the word supplication and petition, they're using it as a double word, but either or, and I stuck to petition and got rid of supplication. It means to ask our Creator something, okay? And to ask our Creator, I didn't use the word petition because that king wouldn't have known exactly the correct Hebrew word to use. So he would have said, go ask. Um, in other videos, I go through here and I'll show you the Hebrew word for each of these here and tell you why I'm using this word here in the end. Right now, when I was reading it, it did mean the word God. Okay, because you got to have their king talk about your God. He's got a different God, okay, or he's got different gods. Um, remove this death. It's not death that's gone. They're eating the green, the sprouting green. The locust will come. Okay, so it has to be a locust. This death, because it didn't kill them. They're dying. Okay, went out from the king and they petitioned. See, now I'm trying this. I'm using the word petition here. Needed these verses here before the palace. Raise your walking stick towards heaven. And I don't know if I'm going to be using this or not through all of them, or if I'm going to combine it. That's still, I'm going to decide that when I'm showing you when I clean up the text. There will be a darkness over Egypt, but lightness for Israel. Now, I didn't just make this verse up because it's going to be told later. He's always explaining what's going to happen to both sides. So it's convincing Israel's when he goes back, he's going to tell them that there's going to be lightness over ours. Okay. So there won't be lightness for them. And because here all of a sudden our Creator's just explaining this and then it happened. So again, like I said, he went to the king and then told him what was going to happen. Then he comes back to the people, talks to Aaron. Aaron already knows. And then everybody is told and it pans out that way or spread that way. But here there was darkness for 3 days and no one went from their homes for days. I don't need to have the word 3. We already have that there. We know the timing. The sons of Israel had light. Here's where I made sure that when I added the text, it was over here, but had a lightness. Okay, here he's going to say, but your livestock and herds will stay in Egypt. So And now here your youngest can go. So you can start seeing the king backing off on some of his words, but he doesn't want to give in completely. Um, but Moses reminds them they're going to go. They belong to us. Um, and he's warned them, you will not see me again. So I guess we're down to the last plague here. By this plague, yes, this, I had to add the word this, not more plague. But this plague is going to be the one that it doesn't say it yet. I will bring upon Egypt, and you'll leave from here. Okay. A lot of the text is out of order. I don't know if I'm going to go through. I'm going to find that this text there's going to be a space because he's going to tell them what the plague is, and then he's going to tell them what's going to happen. So the you're going to see a lot of text start getting scrambled here, or the stories are going to get scrambled. He's talking right now that now speak to my people and tell every one of them to ask from the Egyptians or their neighbor. I made it Egyptians. They didn't have neighbors. They were, or they had neighbors, but in this community of slaves, they would not had neighbors next to them in this community. But the object is it was that I've got to use the word Egyptians here for articles of gold and bronze. I have to add the word because I got silver, I've got gold, bronze. Our creator is in the Sinai is going to create or tell them how he wants his tent for meeting with him, not a temple. It's a tent for meeting with him. Okay. So I need bronze because they had to get the bronze from somewhere, especially when you see how much bronze is going to be used. Um, and they, in being slaves, they didn't have silver and gold. Now, this, when you're thinking of all the Egyptians giving them these things, where'd they get them? Well, sure, they would have fanned out, but then as they were traveling, they probably fanned out as well and went and gathered more as they traveled out of Egypt. So how long is that travel? I'm going to show you some of that, the land and what's going on. So I have maps for that. Um, I'm going to go throughout all and kill all. I needed all the firstborn males. I needed to add the word kill. The versing just does not um see it's way down here. It's said it needs to be said up here. So I'm not just adding to add. I needed a verse here because when you read these formats, you're going to say, well, this is pretty much if I put it here, then these three verses can be made and they're very easy to see. Um, and here it's even of the slaves that their own people had slaves, which would have been a different concept of the way you're thinking of a slave today because um, slaves did have possessions. You could not feed people that as much as they need to eat. Okay. So slaves had some things. They had gardens. They had things to help them make their presence exist within being owned as a slave. Not kill any of the Israels, and they will understand not how. Why? Okay, 11. This is very important. I want to show you. Let me take you there before I forget to click that button, and it's 7. So if I click that, it's close enough, and it pulls up. Now let's see. No, 7. Beast. How the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. I couldn't keep this verse in the format, okay? Uh, but his presence is now going to be realized by all of Egypt. So I'm using the word exist, that they had gods and they didn't believe in a single creator, which the Hebrews would have been known for. So he's letting them know in this verse, and I needed the word exist better than the word how. Okay. So when I can use the word understand, see, if our creator would be speaking in third person if he's doing this, and this is just not correct either. So how I exist. So you're reading the text later, when I got it cleaned up, it will be first person, as much as possible. I mean, it's the key of understanding who was writing what at what time and who they were, um, on that month. That month will be your beginning. No, that day will be your beginning. It is to be the first day. So you can't have it the month being the first day. What's the difference here? Now, what they're trying to put in the text is the new moon. Okay. The thing here is when it comes down to the first day and month and year for you, so it's just this word month, and now we know is definitely wrong. It'll be the first day and month and year for you. I don't need the word and when I'm trying to get rid of as many words as possible. So maybe I may need to add it later. But the other thing is going to be the first day of their year, and that is the passing of him going over their children. Now you have to think back then. The Egyptian people were on a month based on the moon cycle. Okay, every new moon it was a beginning. What some would even name as a fortnight or something like that, meaning a month, moon month. But the object here is we have to understand that in April we had the locust. Now, maybe we had the locust in uh, um, eating at the very end of the crop and before it turned to wheat itself. So the thing here is now we have April, and then we have maybe in the next couple weeks another one in May. Now, what happens in June is the summer solstice exists. Everybody knows that that's the peak of their summer. Okay, even today we know that's the peak of summer. So they needed a celestial event to stay on what their calendar, and everybody would have known this. Now, Israelis use 7 days. When our Creator starts telling them that, because He's marking this as the first day of the year, and then He's going to set up 7 days and then keep repeating them. They don't have moon months. They didn't go around and name the months. Okay. The months and dates that we have today are named after pagan gods. Some favor the Catholic Church has done for everybody. They wouldn't change that. For them to be as powerful as they were for knowing all science and knowing all religion, are the mainstay of proving our Creator exists, they kept pagan gods for us. Again, they are the bad guys. Your priests that you're talking to, they don't believe the way you believe. You're being deceived. Now, what I'm saying here is the summer solstice is the first day. That way it is always known. Now, it does not even out every year, but the object is later. I will show you. I don't know where it's at in Leviticus or something. That what they do for that last amount of days, because it doesn't even out exactly. There are sometimes I think 3 days or 5 days endings. I can't really remember right now, but the object here is that last week doesn't actually end correctly. And there's going to be trumpets to be announced this last week. Okay. Anyways, but not congregation. It's going to be the elders from Israel saying on the 10th of this month. See, this is actually um, telling you that they didn't believe in the summer solstice month, okay? But the 10th of this month, um, anyways, w- we have some understanding of the difference of the calendars being used here. I needed the word roast because that's what's going to happen. So I need to put it in here. Our creator would have told them, you'll not take a ram according to their household family. When you roast an animal, the it they understand how much meat is in one, and then they're how much according to their families they would need. So um, now you can see the difficulty of me trying to correct every word and how they're corrected. Anyways, I'm going to finish here in because still describing what's going on. Because as you know, 40 minutes is too long, or is my limit, or try to stay to the limit. So I'll be back. I'll continue 12:4.